Good evening. It's been a while since we did one of these, so I apologise profusely for the delay. You might notice that I'm in a slightly different location. We moved house, basically, and I've only recently got the Fairlight unpacked from its flight cases and safely installed back up in here. And so we're on to the next stage, because the mainframe, the main unit itself, pretty sturdy and stable now. Still needs a couple of things, new voice card and a couple of other little bits, but nothing major, and that seems to be okay. So what we need to do is focus on this, and this is of course the music keyboard. And as you can see, it has been dismantled. So that's the MDF frame. And I'll just pop that down here. You can see the underside of this. It's solid as hell, and it weighs a lot. But you know, that's what you pay 50 to 100,000 Australian dollars for back in 1985. So that's that. Once you've unscrewed this lot, as you can see, there's about 7 screws there, there's another 5 there, there's another 5 there, and then there's these 4. Once you've done all those, you can get the wooden shell off, and it exposes the internals. There's a lot of empty space, given its weight. You think, well, where is that? I'll show you where that is in just a moment. This is the CMI 10 board, which is the main processing board for the keyboard. It's where the power connections, the pedal connections, the slave keyboard, the alpha keyboard all go into, and then coming out of that, the connections under the actual keys themselves. Over here we've got the connectors, so that's where your power comes in. These are the 3 pedal inputs. This is for your slave keyboard, so some of you might recognise that picture. There's a very famous picture of Kate Bush leaning over, looking gorgeous over her CMI 2X, and she's got the slave keyboard that sits on top of that large white area here. And then we've got the alpha keyboard connectors here, that the alpha keyboard comes in, and then the keyboard, this connector goes down to the CMI mainframe underneath. So over to the front of the keyboard, so you've got pitch bend and modulation wheels, these 2 non-latching switches, and these 3 rotaries, and they're a separate unit with a metal frame, as you can see. And on the other end you have the numeric keypad, which is quite devoid of anything, just this PCB here with the controls and the red LCD just there, or LED should I say. But what gives this thing its weight is the keybed itself, and the keybed is very heavy because it's laying on sheets of metal forged in deepest darkest Australia, I guess. No, I've no idea where the keyboard was manufactured. I know that they used a number of different types throughout the lifetime, but it is very well built, in as much as if you want to service it, it's on this plate here that has multiple hinges just there, and you can then just lift this thing up, and it is heavy. I can't, you know, demonstrate that any better on the video. And here is the underside of the keyboard, so that's what it looks like when it's all opened up. And you can see here, I don't know when this was last serviced, but that could very well be like 30 years. Ooh, look, fluff. Lots of grime and not that much corrosion, I'll be fair. However, when we start looking here, we do start to see some of the damage that's happened, simply really by this being stored not very well, I guess. So this keyboard is quite, when you think about it, is quite ingenious, and how they did this. Basically, you've got plus and minus 5 volts running through these 2 gold coloured bars that you see here, and each key, so if I show you, this is the key I'm going to press, So you can see there it is rocking there, and each key has got this little spring here. This is a sprung piece of metal that's attached here to the key and then kind of soldered in here, and when you press the key down, that little spring touches the lower bar. When you let it up, it's touching the top bar. And the way that the CMI determines velocity and key, note on and note off information, is whether there's a current being made going through these particular bars, and also the time that it takes to travel between these two. So it uses the fact, uses these kind of two positions and the time taken between the travel of the two to give you all the information you need to send via MIDI, or certainly not via MIDI, but certainly via its proprietary connections down to the CMI mainframe. Clever stuff. But as you can see, I'll move up to this one, lots of nasty green corrosion on here. That should clean up quite easily. But there are some of these missing. So, because I'm not brilliant with a soldering iron, what I'm thinking the easier option would be to simply swap out these 3 CMI 11 boards. As you can see, there's one there, another one there, and a third one there. And it would probably be easier just to swap those out rather than mess with stuff, because as you might be able to see, there's lots of gunk. I'm not entirely sure how well these would survive a thorough cleaning. So it might be a case of just replacing them. And then I'll send these back to Peter in Australia, and I'm sure that he would use his considerable skills to restore them. Now, that's all well and good, and I must admit I'm really impressed with the way that you can access this. It's so well thought out. But then that's what you get for 50 to 100,000 Australian dollars back in 1985 is solid engineering. One of the biggest problems though is this. If I just press some of those down, you'll see that these keys, not all of them are returning. Now, what we've got at the back here, I'm not entirely sure how well that's going to come out in the video, but there's individual little springs, and it's those springs that are pulling the keys back into place. It might be easier just to show you here. So each of those little springs are bringing the keys back into place. Now, some of them are working fine, others are connected and not working. So I don't know whether that's just that they've lost their tension, something as simple as that, so it just needs a replacement, or whether mechanisms need cleaning up, so whether the hinge mechanisms here all need cleaning. Am I going to have to take every single key off of this? I must admit I was very surprised to note that every single key is completely intact. There's no cracks, no breaks. This machine has clearly seen a lot of action over the years and is solid as a rock, but not perfect. So we need to do something about that. So I'm not looking forward to having to replace those springs because they do look very small and finicky, but replace we must. Oh look, more dirt and fluff. Ian Stanley's beard scratchings, or no, that's a slur on Ian Stanley, and of course it's not meant at all. So there you go. That's what the inside of a Fairlight Series III keyboard looks like, with its hinged keybed that weighs a ton and 30 odd years of dirt and grime. So what's next? Well, we're going to, as soon as I finish this video, I'm running a cleaner over this to get most of the loose crap out, and then a lot of pictures to send back to Peter in Australia to get his opinion, and then we'll assess the cheapest, most efficient way of getting this back into action. So that's it for now. I'm not going to bore you any more with this, it's already 10 minutes long. So hopefully in the next video I'll be able to show you a completely repaired and fully functional keyboard, and we'll hook it up and maybe play some tunes. But until then, from deepest, darkest Suffolk, thank you for watching, and we'll see you all again very soon. Bye bye.